Alright, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Parker's Outdoor Lifestyle. There's still lots of snow on the ground here where I'm at in Colorado. There's still ice, and I gotta say, not much of an ice fisherman. Tried it once, it was fun, but when it's only, really you going out there by yourself, don't have a fish finder, you try to want to make it as comfortable as you can out there, and when all the ice is, 12 inches plus, depending on areas, doing a little hand cranker ain't my cup of tea. So maybe if I get, all the stuff to make ice fishing as easily as possible, I like it, but kind of, I would say not for me at the moment. So, plus not a lot of open water, still, starting to get warmer. So maybe here in a couple weeks we can hit some of the rivers and maybe some streams that are starting to open up, starting to get warmer. Ice is starting to melt on the flowing water a little bit more, so you will see how that works out. Blue Mesa will probably be iced over for maybe another month or two. We're just gonna leave it at that. So I'm gonna do a bunch of informational and beginner videos, stuff aimed for beginners wanting to get into trout fishing or fly. That's where I'm at. I'm a hardcore bass angler before I moved out here, and going to the world of trout, it's almost night and day. The different styles of angling and everything, especially fly fishing. So today's video is actually going to be about beginner fly fishing mistakes coming from an actual beginner. Keep in mind, it's March now, and I started fly fishing last June, so I haven't even done it a full year yet. But these are some of the things that I learned along the way. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. If you want more of these videos or would like more informational videos, just throw a comment down below. If you've done these mistakes, drop a comment. If you have mistakes that I didn't touch over or things you think would people want to know, drop a comment down below. I want to see what beginners out there thought about when they were learning. So first one is that it can be overwhelming. For me, you think bass fishing has a lot of tackle and techniques and everything else. You could almost say they might have a similar amount or maybe even more. Bass has more or trout have more for fly, but it's just so different than what you're used to. You walk into a fly shore, you see all these different packages, a line, these tippets. You go in, you have tons of flies and everything all along these walls, and you're like, where do you even start? And it's like, how can I just dumb this down as much as possible? And it can be overwhelming, especially when you're first starting and you don't know how to even cast yet. So my first thing, is just, it's not as overwhelming as it seems. I'm gonna give you the basic stuff that you need right now. If you want to get into fly fishing, 9-foot, 5-weight rod with, regular fly line. It could come with a kit. I still use my fly rod that came with the kit. I didn't build it. Everything was already in the box. My fly line and everything. For leader, just get a tapered leader, 4X. There you go. That's all you need to start out with. That's all you need. And so you can go with either fluorocarbon or nylon or mono, which is what it is, monofilament. But let's just keep it simple. Let's 4X. You can do it for anything, and that'll change once you, go to different places. You might find spookier fish, you need lighter line, or most of the time in the summer when the ice comes off, those fish don't care. They're hungry. That's it. It can be overwhelming, but it's only if you make it overwhelming. If you go up to a guy in a fly shop, you can't call him tackle store or anything, it's fly shop, and say, hey, just set me up with the basics and 1 or 2 flies. What are they eating right now? And they'll get you set up. Second point, too much too fast. If you're like me, you're kind of like a gearhead. You like tackle, and same goes for flies. I think it's super interesting when it comes to matching the hatch for fly fishing is that, flies aren't cheap. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. So this is like a 2-sided one. This is just for all the dry flies that I use in the summer, or here's my little thin mint and little woolly bugger box, my nymphs and everything right there, midges and a little bit of extra stuff that's in there. Keep in mind, A lot of these flies are $2.25. If you're not careful, you going like, okay, I'm gonna go out for a day and I need a dozen flies. Well, it's gonna cost you around 27, 28 bucks. Just, getting flies. Even for those super tiny little midges, those size 20 and ups. It can be crazy. You don't need to do all that. You don't need to go get every single, color pattern of a zebra midge or, every color pattern of an elk hair caddis. Most of the time, those fish don't really care. If they're not pressured, they don't care. If you put it in front of their face the right way, they're gonna eat it. So here's what I'm gonna suggest. If you wanna get into it and you wanna get into the gear, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have waders. I just use Cabela's bone dry waders. They're great waders for the price. I'm probably gonna upgrade to Simms or Patagonia in the future. And because they're an investment. Waders are an investment. So I'd say get some nicer waders, and Simms and Patagonia have more moderately priced waders. Get you a good pair of wading boots with either the boa laces or anything like that. They're an investment. But when it comes to like tackle and flies, a 9-foot 5-weight rod is gonna be your kind of do everything trout rod. I mean, if you're gonna be hooking big streamers or anything, you might want to get something a little bit more backbone. If you're going in just the tiniest of little creeks, you set the hook on those and those fish will fly 10 yards behind you because 5 weight's too much backbone. But for anything else, just go with a 9-foot 5-weight rod and just get a small assortment of flies. And there you go. You don't need to have all the stuff I have. And I'm a tacklehead and I like trying to figure out what they're gonna bite. In the summer, these little ants right here, I'm on the creeks, all I really need is those. Or, elk hair caddis, in that, that third row. That's all I really need, or stimulators or parachute atoms. I don't need every blue wing olive, variant or Adams variant. Parachute atoms, stimulator, elk hair caddis. That's all you need. In the winter, zebra, beadhead, pheasant tail. That's all you need. All those will last you anywhere you want to go in the US or anywhere else for trout fishing. You don't gotta get crazy with it unless you want to get crazy with it. Unless they're hitting just this local pattern where there's this only local insect where they find, or it's a salmon fly hatch and they're just eating those big bugs. There you go. That you might want to get a couple of those, but 5 flies top and woolly buggers. Every trout will hit a woolly bugger. Moving on. Getting discouraged. Okay, this was me hard. Keeping in mind that my roommate that I have right now is a fishing guide. He, does boat trips on Blue Mesa, the reservoir, but he also does fly fishing trips, and he's done it most of his life. So I had a good teacher. It's all about practice. When you're just making those casts and you're just throwing that thing, trying to get the feel of it, it can be discouraging. I think I was just practicing my casting whenever I caught my first trout on a fly rod. I was just, little stripping the streamer in, a little woolly bugger, and it caught on. I'm like, okay, I have no idea how to fight this fish. It's all about practice. I pick on things pretty easy because I love fishing and I'll dedicate the time to do it, but it can get discouraging. Just keep practicing, which ties into my next talking point, which is finesse. Whenever you're throwing any sort of fly, you just let that rod load up and just send it out there, with almost the same energy that you did it on your back. And when you feel it, you'll know. I can't really describe it. It's like when you just make that cast and it clicks in your head where you're just like, that was it. That's what it's supposed to feel like whenever you're making that back cast. But whenever you don't send it back too fast, you just don't let that rod load up super hard, and once you feel it and that parabolic action of the rod goes back, because you're throwing the line. That's what you're doing. You're not throwing the fly, because those things don't weigh anything at all. It's the weight of the fly line that you're throwing. So the fly line comes back, and then the leader with the fly rolls all the way back. And so you'll feel that when that fly line reaches that back, it'll kind of tick that rod back, and that's when you make that forward cast. But you don't put too much oomph on it. You're not whipping that thing forward. You put so much power in that forward cast, that line's just gonna stop and doesn't carry that momentum. You need the same kind of inertia, that same kinetic energy when it builds up and it loads up on the back cast to release it forward. That's how that works. So it's all about practice. Practice in your yard with yarn. I practice on one of the local ponds out here with a woolly bugger, because I think that's kind of a perfect one to start out with, because light enough where it's not just super heavy and you got to put a lot of muscle in it, but it loads up enough on that back cast so when that woolly bugger just reaches all the way back, it'll tick. You'll feel that rod just, kind of at the very top, and it'll kind of tell you when you're ready to make that forward cast. So it's not just and just throwing that thing out there, because you got to wait for that whole, however long deal of line to get back and, send it forward. So if you want me to do a video on how to cast, just drop a video down below. I'm sure Elevation Angling, my roommate John, will be in on that, because even still, he catches me slipping on things. Keep this finesse. It's not power. It's not that. You don't need all that unless you're like in the salt water when you're throwing a 9 weight where you just need to, nothing's heavy and you're tossing heavy jigs, and those rods are made for throwing that. But kind of on the other end, catching fish. Whenever you hook up into a fish, you don't have to just jaw jack them. You really don't. It's just a simple up, or if you're working a like a woolly bugger and you're just stripping that thing in, you just kind of just pull that line back and you strip set. So when that fish has it in its mouth, the line you pull, it'll set that hook. Or if you're a dry fly and that fish comes up and eats it, just whoosh, that's all you need to do. Just like a flick of the wrist. That's all. Whenever if you're on the small stream, you don't have to set the hook pretty much at all. Those fish are hungry, they'll eat it. You don't need, you can just flick of the wrist, hook set. You don't have to, just freaking throw your whole arm up, because I've done that and I've sent trout 20 yards behind me just because they're small stream trout. They're not gonna put up much of a fight. They don't weigh nothing. They're 8 inches long. You don't need to do all that. So you can get a lighter weight rod to help you with all that or anything, but stick with the 5 weight right now and just learn it. Keep it smooth, keep it fluid, keep it with H2O. Just keep it fluid. I kind of touched on this, which is keep it simple, stupid. So remember KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So you don't have to go out and get all the nicest gear. Fly fishing, to some people might seem like the rich man's sport. It has some sort of elegance or elitism, to it. It's like, oh, that guy's trout fishing with a spinner and a spinning rod. I'm doing it on the fly, which is the only true form of fishing. Or there are people in the fly fishing community that are just like, only dry fly fishing is the way to do it. If you're nymphing or throwing eggs or anything else, that's not really fly fishing. Fly fishing is what you make of it, and you don't have to do all that. If you just like dry fly fishing in the summer, do that. If you like chasing alpine cutthroats in the mountains, go do that. I'm personally not a fan of fishing the really big rivers, out here. And, we had the Taylor River and the Gunnison River, right in my backyard. And there's some of the most primo trout fishing on the country. But big water's hard to navigate when there's also float trips and everything else, and everybody else is out there too. So my type of fishing is like, I like going exploring in the backcountry and, find a small stream fish. And that's what I like to do. I think it's more fun. They're not as finicky. They'll eat anything. But just keep it simple. You don't have to, have all the nice gear. You don't have to have all the flies or anything like that. Make it what you want. And if you want more videos explaining casting or more in-depth stuff about fly fishing, drop comments about what you would want to know down below, and I'll make a video of it. So until all this, snow, ice, and all this BS melts, I'm not going to be fishing a whole lot. Closest fishing I can get, is an hour and a half away, and it's a lot of gas money just to, go fishing, go fishing all the time. So I'm going to be working on making, indoor videos, more informational, things that I can do to help you guys become new to fly fishing or trout fishing or any fishing in general. Might be dropping a few bass tips along the way, and just seeing what I can do. Just kind of getting the channel up and running again. Man, it's, when you're not fishing a lot and everything's cold and wintry and ice, it's not as fun, not doing a whole much really. So If you like this video, like and comment, subscribe if you want more information and more outdoors adventures when the summer comes, because trust me, every weekend, fishing, hiking, camping, everything. It's gonna be a busy summer, but it's gonna be a really fun summer, and even before that. So thank you all so much for checking in on the video. If you have, comments for me, let me know. Contact me on any one of my social medias. I'll definitely reply back to you. So that'll be it for this videos. I'm out. Peace.